Wonderful. Well, thank you everyone for logging in to our Wellness Wednesday live webinar. This is a platform focused on health and wellness with guest speakers from around the world. This month's episodes are dedicated to breast health and breast cancer awareness. My name is Armina, and I'm delighted to be on this journey with you today. For today's session, do remember you may share your questions for our speaker through the chat feature on this webinar, and we will get to them in the second half. Joining us today is Tara Rowledge, sharing her journey with us in efforts of raising awareness and empowering viewers with information and inspiration she has to share. A little bit about Tara. Age 51, originally from Surrey, UK. She's been married for 15 years and living in Dubai. She was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer in July 2019. Since recovery, she has opened a new luxury spa here in Dubai, which has been her project of focus. Please join me in welcoming Tara. So nice to have you today, Tara. How are you doing?
I'm good, Zamina. How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you for joining us on this lovely afternoon, this Wednesday. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I'm a little bit nervous, so everyone has to bear with me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is just a chat between us. And most of all, everyone joining here today is really interested in hearing your story, hearing it from you. So I'll be asking you the questions,
Okay.
and then we'll be taking the questions as well from our audience. So to help us get started, Tara, can you tell us just a little bit about yourself and where you were in your life at the time that you got diagnosed? What had happened up until then? How did you end up here in this lovely sunny place? A little bit about yourself.
Okay. So we've lived here for almost 5 years, and we arrived in April, and I think the November before we arrived, I noticed a cyst in my left breast, or a lump, which I'd never had before. So I'm back in the UK. I went straight to my GP. I was sent within 10 days for a mammogram and ultrasound, which was all done. As much as we have people saying about the UK services aren't that good, I was seen extremely quickly and was told that actually it was just a cyst, and that I had many cysts in both of my breasts, and that my tissue was extremely dense. So I explained that I was moving away, and they said to me, just keep having your checkups every year now, because of I was 46 then, I suppose 45, 46, and due to my age, they said just keep having your checks every year. So we moved here in the April, and in the June, July, I contacted the American hospital and went to their breast clinic and went and had a regular checkup every year since then. Mammogram, ultrasound, everything was fine. There was no changes from what I'd been told from the UK. So just went along every year as my annual checkup. And then last year, do you want me to say what happened now, or?
Yeah, sure. Please
Yeah.
go. Yeah.
Last year, around end of May, beginning of June, I noticed that I had an inverted nipple, which was not normal. So I called the breast clinic and spoke to Dr. Huck at the American hospital, and they said, come straight in because it's a change that you don't normally have. So I went in, did all the normal stuff, had the mammogram, had the ultrasound. Nothing was conclusive because of the density of my tissue. So I went away, Dr. Huck went away. We came back after, I think I had another scan in between there. Some of it's all a bit of a blur actually. But it came back that it was actually a tumor pulling my nipple in, which was how we found the diagnosis straight away. But I may be jumping across your question, so tell me to.
No, that's absolutely fine. At this time where you were probably kind of in and out of visits and undergoing the screenings that you had to, what were you feeling at this time? Because it sounds like you were quite proactive. You went annually for your checkup, and that's great to see that you kind of, took charge of that and work. But what was going through your mind at that time?
What, when I knew that there might be something wrong? Yeah. Well, in the back of I just kept saying it was nothing. It was going to be absolutely fine. But now when I look back, I knew sort of reactions I had to certain things in my life. I realized that I think in the back of my mind, I knew something wasn't right, because we went back to the UK for a wedding, and I cried all day and all night. Just anything that happened, it made me really emotional. And now I look back and I think it was because I think in my back of my mind, I actually knew when I got the results, I knew it was going to be bad news. But I sort of, me being me, put a smile on my face and keep carrying on. But yeah, that's my way of doing it, is I don't get too stressed until I actually know what I'm dealing with. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, and how was the diagnosis presented to you? What was that process like? Were you in Dubai when you were?
Yes. So all of this was in Dubai. So I came back from the UK from a small our wedding that we'd been to, and Dr. Huck at the American hospital was also away. So I think I had about a week in between getting back and him coming back. So I went in to see him on the Monday, the 22nd of July, and he said, we're inconclusive. We do need to do a biopsy. So I was taken in then and had a biopsy that afternoon, and then had to wait until Thursday that week. So I think the 25th of July. And Dr. Huck and another doctor came in and sat with me. And I can't remember the exact wording, but I know my husband always said it was a really lovely way of saying that they'd found something. He didn't actually say you've got breast cancer. He just said it was something along the lines of we have found some malignancy. But he'd already spoken to Dr. Khan, the oncologist at the American hospital, and I literally went from one room to the next room to the oncology department, and then was sat there with Dr. Khan and nurse Nicola O'Sullivan, who was amazing and that lovely English lady. And that's when I'm glad I had somebody with me as my husband, because he could take it all in. It was all a bit of a blur, if I'm honest. Bit of a shock, but not too much of a shock, because as I said, I think in the back of my mind, I knew there was something not right. And I mean, yeah, they walked me through the steps, gave me a whole load of information to bring home. And it was then a whole week followed on from there of having different scans, all sorts, any single thing you could think of that I had to have, I had in the following week.
Right. So it was detected finally through a biopsy, and then you were
Yes.
diagnosed with stage 3.
Yeah, because it was so deep inside, and my tissue is so dense that they had to do a biopsy just to double check. But they did a biopsy on where they could find the lump, and then also on my lymph nodes, and it was that I had it in my lymph nodes also.
And at this time, like you said, you were given a lot of information and probably options of the next steps along with the tests that you need to do. How was it trying to absorb it? It must have been very overwhelming, just trying to suddenly read up on so much information. And did you have a family history? Were you aware of any of this before?
No family history at all. A lot of information handed over to you, but it's some of it I seem to block out now. I have to sort of look back at pictures and things to remind myself how it was. But I remember coming home that afternoon. We had to phone my mum and dad in the UK and all my family and friends in the UK and friends here. None of my family are based here, so it's just myself and my husband and the group of friends that we have. My mum and my dad, we were told on the Thursday, they jumped on a plane and arrived on Saturday morning, and stayed for, I think, nearly 3 weeks. So they saw me through all the scans and everything, the full echograms, everything for the following week. And then it was very, very quick. So I actually started my chemotherapy on the 5th of August. And I think up until then, it depends on each person as an individual, because for me, I'm very much, let's just get on with it. That I just listened to what they told me. As I say, we had no history of it in our family. So for me, I had to listen to the oncologist and all the nursing staff, and basically, you tell me what to do, and I'll just do it, and let's get everything booked in and get going. That was I didn't want to wait
Mm-hmm.
for another couple of weeks. It was literally straight back. It was told on the Thursday, straight back in on the Sunday for a week full of scans, and then the following Sunday or Monday started chemotherapy.
I mean, as you mentioned, it's such a probably short time frame and so much to digest. You had your husband here with you, and you said your family throughout. So, is that with the support network that you felt you could lean on that could get you through this? And at times we unfortunately hear a lot of people don't have that support network. So,
Yeah.
what could you kind of share from your experience how that made a difference for you?
I mean, I'm extremely close with my family anyway in the UK, and it was difficult with them not being here permanently. Um, but the one thing I didn't do, which some people wanted to do, was get in contact with cancer agencies or communities within Dubai, which I didn't want to do to start off with, just because it took me quite a long time. Now I look back that it did take me quite a long time to digest it. As I say, I just want to get on and do it, and do it in the best way that I can. But even if you've just got one person to talk to, you just have to be able to be open and honest with somebody, so you're not don't I didn't allow myself to, if I wanted to cry, I just cried. It didn't I could be sitting in a coffee shop on my own, and if I had to have a cry, I just had a cry. But yeah, I mean, family was amazing, and I don't know how I would cope, if I'm honest, if I didn't have the support from my family and friends.
That's a blessing, certainly.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
very lucky.
certainly. So Tara, what was the treatment process? You mentioned chemotherapy. Is that the treatment route that you took, and how long did that last?
Okay, so I started with 8 weeks of what they call AC chemotherapy, which is also known as the Red Devil, which is very, very hard. It's 8 weeks, but you have 4 sessions, so you have 1 week on, 1 week off, because it's very hard on your body. And that's where I literally sat there and a nurse actually does the chemotherapy manually into your body, rather than just sitting there with a drip. She will actually sit there for an hour injecting this red vial of stuff into your body, or two of them. And then after, so I set, for instance, if I had that on the Monday, on 24 hours later, I had to have an injection, which my husband did every week for me, which I was very lucky to save me going back to the hospital, which was for your bone marrow, to help you all the I'm not very good with the terminology and stuff, and also chemo does play with your brain. So I've got notes. I'm trying to make sure I don't forget something. But yeah, because of the blood cells being killed off by the chemo, you have to then have an injection to help your bone marrow reproduce itself. So I had 8 weeks of that. Then after the 8 weeks finished, I was sent for a scan. The scan showed that the chemotherapy had reduced the tumor by about a quarter, I think, if I can remember correctly. So once they'd received those results, they were happy for me to then carry on with another 12 weeks of another chemo called Taxol, which is a little less harsh on your body. During the AC, the Red Devil, on the second round of chemo, I started to lose my hair. And I didn't bother with a cold cap or anything like that. I just sort of went with whatever was going to happen. And literally on the second chemo that evening, my hair started to fall out. So I went and took control of the one thing I could, and had my head shaved the following day, and sort of learnt to embrace having no hair, which I quite enjoyed. I was very lucky. I've always had shortish hair, so it wasn't as if I was having to go from like shoulder length or something to nothing. And the side effects of that AC chemo were quite, if I'd be frank, they were quite horrendous. They affected my movement. I was very tired. I still worked. I worked as much as I could into the office and also at home. But I'd find for the week of the chemo, I was at home. The second week when I was off the chemo, I could go off and do a lot more things. But as it gradually, week after week, I noticed that I slowed down a lot. I lost my eyelashes. I lost every hair basically that you could think of. But
And you mentioned work, and that's such a key point, going to work at this time. And how did you manage having that energy, not only physically, but emotionally to, whether it was with friends, were you able to see people, your friends, were you able to, engage with your colleagues as much as you would have? How did that change during this chemo period?
um, well, everything just became a lot slower. But it was, for me, I needed to be around. I needed to try and be as normal as possible. I didn't want it to
Mm.
rule my life, and I'm not one to sit on the sofa and feel sorry for myself anyway. I never have been like that. I've been an asthmatic also all my life and hospitalized a few times for that. So I've always sort of just got up and got on with things. And I look back now, I think going into the office just even for a few hours every couple of days did me the world of good. It was great to just feel normal in front of people. And also, because we run the business, my husband and I, it was important that everybody in the office saw me at every stage as well. So the minute I lost my hair, or I had it cut shorter, first of all, I went into the office and said, right, this is me. And then when I lost my hair, a few days later, I went in again and was like, right, now get used to me being like this, because this is what it's going to be like. And it was the middle of August by then. So
Yeah.
a lot of the time I had to wear, like, I couldn't wear anything. It was just so hot. So I would just be walking around with a bald head.
I've seen your picture. I know you rocked it. So we have to say that. I think everyone's seen it on the flyer and they would agree with
Thank you.
you. Absolutely. So, Tara, you mentioned a little bit earlier that you were a little bit hesitant to reach out to networks and support groups. Did you do that at any point down the line? Did that happen for you?
I was invited to, I went during the month of October last year. There was something on it in Mall of the Emirates, and I just popped along to, it's one of the shoe shops there. I can't think of the name of it now, but they were doing something, and I said to my husband, I'm going to take myself there. So I was driving, and quite happily could drive around. So I took myself off and went in, and it was very low key, or not low key, but very casual. People just walking around, and they had some signs that saying I was a survivor or a warrior or whatever. And from that, someone saw a picture of me on Instagram, and I was then invited to another thing for Pink October, with a photo shoot, which is where the picture that you have on your flyer has come from. And that was the first thing I went to, first and only thing, if I'm honest, that I went to. And the only reason I went to that one was because it was, again, quite a low key, small amount of women there. If I'm totally honest, the reason I didn't want to reach out, and it's everybody's got their own way of thinking, but I didn't want to listen to lots of people saying how ill they were or how awful it made them feel. I wanted to just sort of get on and deal with it in my own way, because everyone has different experiences as well. But that's just me. I know that a lot of the ladies that do go, and they've joined a lot of the groups here, breast friends, etc., which I am I am part of, but every time they did something, I wasn't able to go anyway. So but I know that they do a lot of things, and it is a really good, what's the word, it's a good thing to do, and it's a good to be able to talk to people. I found that I spoke to a lot of people over Instagram, which
Okay.
I found, and you just sort of, I think, I don't know if it's because not being face to face with people, but you could share your
Yeah.
feelings and people and things like that over Instagram, which that's the one thing I found was a really good help for me.
Wow, that's such a good point that you have there. Because sometimes maybe you wouldn't think that you would be able to find that there, to be able to even kind of build that bond or,
Mm.
honest relationship there where you
Yeah,
just exchanging IP, which is so true. And it can be on any medium. It doesn't always come in the form of an organized group.
yeah,
It can just be the nice kind of exchange, whether it's
yeah.
a personal story or just how you felt that day. Absolutely. And you when did your treatment start and stop in terms of timeline? Were you undergoing
Okay.
treatment time last year?
Yes. So my first chemotherapy was the 5th of August. Um, um, the whole lot of chemotherapy finished on the 15th of December last year. Then on the 7th of January this year, I went in and had a double mastectomy. Once I was over that, then I started radiotherapy on I have to look at my notes, my date. On the 12th of February this year, I started radiotherapy for 36 sessions and I finished that on the 23rd of March
Okay.
this year. So, but I still have one more surgery to go because I was put the Dr. Frank, my plastic surgeon at the American hospital, put breast expanders in, tissue expanders
Mm.
in. So I still look like I have a pair of breasts, which is quite nice. And he would fill those up with saline water. And I'm still now waiting just to have those taken out and actual implants put back in. But
Okay.
all the hard stuff is now done.
Okay, so you mentioned around 23rd of March. So that kind of brings me to a question I almost have to ask in every session. How did this overall global change, did it impact your life, the pandemic? How did it affect your work? And just, I think it's something we all can really relate, and
Yeah,
everyone kind of asked that question in
yeah.
different contexts. So how did that affect you and perhaps your treatment and your state of mind?
Uh, I had to get it. It was during for the last sort of 2 weeks of radiotherapy. I had to get a permit to go off to have my radiotherapy, but it was a bit of a blessing, in all honesty, because every day I was getting to go out of the house for a reason and see people. And radiotherapy is a lot easier than chemotherapy. You're literally in there for 5 minutes. The side effects are quite tough because I got extremely tired. But I was more upset when everything had finished. So all my treatment had finished, and all I wanted to do was, the weather was getting nice. I wanted to be able to go out for a walk, and then we went into the big lockdown,
Yeah.
and I I didn't realize how much it affected me until we were taken out of lockdown again, and I could actually just go out when I wanted to. But I wanted to start feeling better, but and wanted to like exercise, etc. But it would not able to do as much as I wanted to. But now I look back, it actually was quite a good thing for me because I had to stop. I had to slow down and allow my body to recover because the radiotherapy carries on in your body for at least a month. So the side effects of it, which make you extremely tired. So for 2 weeks, when we were on serious lockdown, it was actually a bit of a godsend because it made me stay home and just rest and just work from here when I needed to. So yeah, it was a bit annoying, but uh, it didn't affect any of my treatment here whatsoever, none whatsoever.
Do you think perhaps it was helpful to kind of go, just internalize what you had been through and just kind of digest everything, because it sounded like it was so back to back, from
Yeah.
diagnosis to treatment to second treatment to then the surgery. It really is in such a packed time. How did that, when did that sink in? It's probably still sinking in to an
I
extent.
think,
When did that
yeah,
happen?
I don't think it has all sunk in, if I'm honest. Being brutally honest, I don't think it really has. I sort of expected, and I did laugh with some friends saying that you're going to find me in a corner, broken down and just sobbing my heart out one night when we least expect it. But it still hasn't happened. So I don't know if it's ever go. I don't know. Some people say I'm a little bit strange. But I don't know. I have been put onto antidepressants, which I think may help. But the only reason I was on them is because the the chemotherapy Taxol that I had put me into the menopause. So it's brought on horrendous flushes. So the antidepressants that I'm on, Cipralex, are actually to control the flushes more than anything else. And I do wonder if that sort of kept me on even more of a even keel than I would be. But I'm one of those people that I just get on and deal with it.
Yeah.
It's, you know, the main thing for me for the whole thing was just knowing when something was happening. So it's like, right, I've had my first chemo. When
Right.
are we starting the next lot?
Plan,
I've had that.
plan
When
and
am
what
I?
to anticipate.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was very strange. Stopping chemotherapy was very strange. It was just coming up to Christmas. The first, for 12 weeks, I'd been going in every single week to have this stuff pumped into me. But then I think I was very lucky with timing. When I finished my first round of the AC chemo, it was my 50th birthday and we had a party here.
Oh,
So I had something to look forward to. So then
mm,
when I finished the main chemo, the 12 weeks, it was Christmas and all my family came to join us here for Christmas. So I constantly had something to look forward to. Um, but it did all seem a little bit weird, I'm not going to lie. Once everything was over and lockdown finished and we were allowed out and my hair had started to grow back, and it, it's as if people suddenly forget that you were ill, but
yeah.
your body
It's still
doesn't.
healing and still
Yeah,
recovering and going
yeah.
through.
I mean, it's only now we're in October, I can honestly say I'm starting to feel stronger physically than I have done for a long, long time. And I've got a lot of hair back.
Which looks great, I might add. No, so Tara, you mentioned, and this is probably a little bit of a difficult question, but what do you think your husband's perspective was and your family's, because they kind of experienced it with you on the other side, right? And having to watch you go through it and
Yeah.
support you, whether it was through the injections or emotional support, or what do you know of what it felt like for them and their
Uh,
experience of?
it was horrendous for them. I think it's worse for them than it was for me because I'm the one going through everything. And but for them to sit and watch you sort of disintegrate into sort of, I've gone from being someone that's up and about jumping all over the place to, having to slow down. And when I lost my hair, when my parents came, because they came for the first session, then they came back in November, and they'd seen pictures of me with no hair, but to actually see me physically with no hair, it was awful. um but then, as sort of 2 minutes later, it's just me and I'm their daughter and it's normal. But I think it's much, much harder, if I'm honest, for anyone that's watching the person they love go through something so horrendous, because there's nothing they can do to help you apart from just be there to support you. But the one thing that got me through a lot of it was having massages. I had massages at home once or twice a week sometimes because my bones hurt so much, that was one of the things that I've managed to have at least once or twice a week.
Is
And I
that
do think
always enjoyed, or is it just
I've
some?
I've always enjoyed massage, but it was with the bone marrow injection. It basically hurt every single bone in your body. You could feel it. Sort of 2 days later, you could feel everything just aching, even your jaw. So it was just one of those things. Just sort of lay for 90 minutes and have someone just. I think it helped with just the movements. I didn't have lymphedema or anything like that, and I do think that really did help as well, and it's a nice way of relaxing.
Yeah, that's such a great point. I mean, aside from your prescribed treatments, is there any little thing that you added to your routine, such as a massage or anything that you felt made you feel a little bit better?
Uh, I did still eat chocolate, which I was told I wasn't meant to, but I couldn't quite give that up. No, massage really was the one thing for me, and just trying to eat healthier. But sometimes you can't. Sometimes you have to just listen to
Mhm.
your body. And that I was given some good advice by Nicola, the nurse. She said, Tara, your body is going to go through so much stress. Don't allow yourself to crave for anything. So if I wanted a piece of chocolate, or something that I shouldn't really have because you're not meant to have certain things, they just said to me, as long as you're just doing it very, you're not being stupid and eating a massive bag of chocolate, just allow yourself to do whatever you need to. Have a glass of wine if you wanted to, which I didn't drink, I didn't do anything like that, but chocolate was my forte, I have to say, and toffees.
Oh, I think we can relate to that. I have a question, and I think everyone's experience to this might be different. But did you find people and women maybe coming to you asking for advice? Maybe if they were facing what you were facing, and you had been through it, and they were looking up to you or kind of inspired by how you handled it, and you've remained so positive, and you've more than recovered. Do you find that people are coming to it, and what do you say to them if anyone's asking you for some advice?
Oh, well, if anybody that I know, that I did have one lady that I know on the estate where I live, and she said to me one day, she said, "Oh, Tara, I think I've found a little lump," and I just straight away was like, go and get it checked. It's probably nothing, but my advice to anybody has always been, just don't waste any time. But I've always been very open. There was a ladies group here, just a coffee morning, where I live in Jumeirah Golf Estates, and I've never, because I've always worked, I've never had children, so I've always worked full time. But just before I was diagnosed, I joined a coffee morning and said to my husband, I'm gonna, if I like it, I'm gonna start working from home every Monday. And it all coincided with me then getting diagnosed the following week. And the ladies there that I've met were all amazing, and they've all said to me, what should we do? What should we say to any of our friends if they're nervous of anything? And I've said to them, just call me. I'll give anybody any. I can only tell you how I'd cope, but my main advice is to anyone, if they feel anything that's not right or see anything, happily talk to anybody, but just go and get it checked. But yeah, I'm open to any question whatsoever. I'm not scared to answer anything that anybody might ask. I've even had a friend of ours who's knows someone else whose wife was diagnosed, and I said, just tell her to call me. If she wants to reach out, then call me, and it's good to speak to somebody that's been there already and
That's
been there recently. That's the thing. I'm not very good with speaking with people that have been there sort of 20 years ago,
yeah.
because treatment is so different now to 20 odd years ago. So
But that's very kind of you, and we already have questions coming in, so we will
okay.
in a few minutes. Before we get to them, Tara, I wanted to ask, where are you now? In your mental headspace, where are you now in your vision for your life and your projects that you might be working on? What's happening for you currently, October 2020?
Okay, so when we went into lockdown, my husband is one of these that gets very bored very quickly, and he wanted to try and think of something to do, because we run a lighting design company together also, but he wanted to do something that I could separate myself from, and we came up with the idea of opening a spa here and in Jumeirah Golf Estates, which they don't have. So during the lockdown, we put plans together and set a few wheels in motion, and that I didn't realize how much I needed something to focus on. The other company that we run, runs itself. I can do whatever I need to from home. I don't need to be in the office all the time now. So I needed something to focus on, and I didn't quite realize how differently I'd look at life, because I'm quite black and white anyway, but I'm even more so now. Like small things that people worry about, I just go, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's not an issue now. Don't like, there's that saying, don't sweat the small stuff. It's such a true saying.
Yeah.
So yeah, at the moment, mentally, I think I'm okay. I've unfortunately lost my dad in August, which was very it wasn't expected. It was a real shock. So after sort of trying to set up a new business, I then had to dash home to the UK to help with everything after he passed away. And then I came back, and the spa was literally just opened on the 1st of October. So we've only been open a couple of weeks. So it's given me, I always think I need something to focus on, and that's what this has done. But I also realized physically I had been overdoing it. So my body that's one piece of advice I would just give to anybody, is to listen to their body, because I will go, and then all of a sudden I'm just down, and I go to bed at 8 o'clock in the evening and wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning. But yeah, I mean, I'm quite upbeat. I've always just tried to put a smile on my face and try not to stress over too much, because stress brings out a lot of stuff. Don't get me wrong, I do. Setting up a new business is very stressful in its own right. But yeah, no, as I say, physically now I'm starting to just funny enough, in this last week I can feel myself doing a lot more. I'm not getting as tired as I was before. I'm back in the gym. I'm trying to get back out on my bike. I'm trying to get back to walking and getting into a routine. I've been out of a routine for a very long time. So that's another thing for me personally, that's how I'm looking now. This week I've got back into a routine, and now it's October. So I've been invited to a couple of other things for breast friends to do. And I've also given them some vouchers for our spa as well, to add into a raffle for the lucky person that wins. But yeah, I'm quite a positive person.
I can definitely see that. You also radiate that a little bit. So I think it's a little contagious, and that makes sense with the spa. It just makes people feel good, a nice place for people to come.
And what I've tried to do is bring in, from me being a consumer before, I've brought in everything that I would expect in a spa, with all little touches that you don't get even in some of the 6-star hotels and things. So it's I'm very proud of it.
The spa, I think everyone's probably wondering.
It's called the Lounge Spa, and it's based at Jumeirah Golf Estates at the clubhouse. And we have a ladies' lounge for your nails, eyelashes, anything that could be done to a lady within an open space. And then we have a gentleman's lounge. So again, gents barbers, manicure, pedicure. And then we also have a massage lounge as well. So we've got 3 separate massage rooms, and then a very special hydro bed, which you do your body scrubs and body wraps on as well. So everybody come along.
That's on my bucket list for sure. That's super exciting. And again, thank you, Tara. I think let's jump into some of our questions. So we'll make sure we have some time for them. So one of our viewers is asking, how did you keep a positive mentality and stay so strong during this process?
I think that's just my way. I've always been, let's just deal with something. As I said before, I don't let anything get to me too much until I know what I'm dealing with. I think it's just, it's just the way I am. I know other people, don't get me wrong, I did have down days that I wasn't positive the whole time. I did have down days, and when I did have a down day, I allowed it to happen. And that's what I say. I'm quite an upbeat sort of person, but if I've said no, I can't do something, then everybody knows no, I can't do it. And I would see friends, etc., but I was normally home by 9 o'clock. So for me, it was just stay upbeat, put a smile on my face. And I now look back at some of my photos though and think, that smile a real one? I think it was, but you could tell the eyes were sort of saying something different. But a positive mental attitude, that's it.
So that's a good point, and I love that you touched upon allowing yourself, right? Because essentially only you can really know that what kind of day you need. That could be a lays in bed a little bit longer this morning because mentally I just need that, or let's jump out and schedule a really busy day ahead for myself.
Yeah.
Were there things that were that people said to you that were more helpful or less helpful that you could kind of guide somebody to maybe not say to somebody facing a difficult situation, or things that were helpful? Because sometimes it's a little bit hard to know what that line is and where being helpful is and where it just kind of could be annoying or counterproductive.
I think it's when someone says, "Oh, you'll be fine." It's like,
You will be
yeah,
fine.
okay, well, I'll let my oncologist tell me that.
Yeah.
The main thing for me was people giving advice on what to eat or drink, or certain tablets and different things that you could take, because a lot of people say, "Oh, you must only eat this and you must eat that," and that could get a little bit annoying because they weren't going through the chemo. They didn't know how my body was going on. If it was from somebody that had been through chemotherapy and everything else, I would have sort of listened a little bit more. But I very politely said thank you very much, and then walked away and just said, "Oh, they don't know what they're bloody talking about." Excuse me. But I was given a lot of people were saying about herbal remedies and things,
Yeah.
which I wasn't into doing. To me, it was like, take the chemotherapy, take everything else. But if I was offered anything by someone who would say this was what a friend of mine had, etc., I always went to, when I went in for my chemo, I always went back in and said, "Look, someone's recommended this. What do you say?" And they would then look it up on the screen. And there's so many tablets that people say you can
Yeah.
take, but actually you can't. So yeah, people telling you what you should and shouldn't do that have never been through it is quite annoying. But yeah, put
That's a good point. We're all taking notes here. No, that's great. So we have another question. Maybe it's a little bit similar, but I'll let you phrase your answer. What would you recommend to women on being strong and proactive should they be in the same situation? How do you remain proactive? I guess, like you said, that's a little bit part of your personality to plan
Yeah,
well and look forward
yeah.
to
I
things.
mean, I just, I think, I just tried to act as normal as I possibly could for as long as I could. I would quite often, I would have a chemotherapy session. My husband would drop me home, then he'd go to work. We've got lucky enough to have we've got a pool in our garden, but we also have a pool at the clubhouse. And rather than sort of sitting at home on my own, it was quite nice to go up to the pool at the clubhouse. It was the winter months, so it wasn't hot, and I would just sit under the shade. And it was just nice to see people around rather than I did find if I was at home too much, I'd get a little bit frustrated.
Right.
So for me, it was just keep it. I know it's difficult in Dubai, especially, but if you can get out and have a walk and get the fresh air and especially get some sun on you, that's what I did. It
Yeah.
was, it makes. I don't know if I'd have coped so well had I been in a country that wasn't full of sunshine. If I'm
Yeah.
honest, I think it definitely helps,
Wow.
definitely. But yeah,
Well,
I think it is just do what you think is best for you,
that's-
but try and be as I just that my way was to try and be as normal as possible,
yeah.
maybe a bit slower and a bit, not as much, but just try and do what makes you happy. If you want a cup of coffee, go and have a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
That's what I would do, and try and find, even if it's just one cafe that you go to regularly, people will get to know you,
Yeah.
which is also just that nice thing of someone saying hello that you don't need to go and sit with. They don't need to know what's going on, but it's just sometimes nice for someone to recognize you.
That's very true, and that's and such simple advice, but I think easy to implement and probably personalized to every
Yeah,
person. Works for it. So you just kind of have to figure that out, and then
yeah.
keep at it. But Tara, what does the next few months and next few years look like for you? Are you still recommended to go in for regular screenings, or how does it
Yes.
work from this point on?
At the moment, I go in every 3 months. So I've just been back in last month, and I just have a blood test now. That's the first thing they do, because they now say that you can actually find more, because I had everything removed on both sides. So, and when they say everything, you know, when you have your breast removed, it's not just this part here, it goes up to your collarbone, it takes out from around the sides and under your arms. So there's nothing there for it to come back on. So they do a blood test every 3 months, but I have to tell them if I notice any differences in my bones, etc., which I did. I've noticed that I was getting pains in my hips since I had my surgery. So I was sent for a bone scan, which I did last week, and got the results, and everything was fine. It's more the fact that I could only lay on one side after surgery, and it's just that it's probably slight bruising to my muscles and everything, but because of where it was, they wanted to double check. So apart from that, I'll have that checked again in 3 months, but at the minute it's every 3 months I'll go. I'm on tamoxifen tablets, which will keep me in the menopause, and I have to go back again. We'll keep. I think we'll stay on that. I'll stay on those for a year, which is probably September next year. No, July next year, I think, and then we may change that. But it would after probably January. I go back on the 13th of December, and I think then we may do 6 months.
Okay.
And then another 6 months, and then it will go for a year. Yeah.
Okay. You know,
but I still have to have one surgery as well.
The remaining one at the
American. Yeah.
You just mentioned tamoxifen, and we actually just got a very specific question about that. So I will ask you, and if you're comfortable to share, we have a question on YouTube that if Tara is on tamoxifen, what have been the consequences or side effects? So you did mention that you are on it currently. How has it affected you?
I've been okay. I have put on weight, but that's also probably part of lockdown, which I think everybody put on a bit of weight. But yeah, my main thing is my weight had gone up. But other than that, I haven't really noticed anything.
And it's treatment for you, a few months, you mentioned?
Yeah, I think I've been on it now since July, or may even be before. I mean, this is my brain gets a little bit muddled. No, it's more than July. It may be about April, May, that I've been on it. Yeah.
More.
Yeah. So no, the weight is definitely a side effect that I've had, but now I'm just starting to lose weight again. My body, I think it's just starting to get back into some. Yeah, because it's been through so many things. But no, I've not had nothing serious that I can think of. Okay. No skin problems, no hair problems, nothing.
Okay, great. I'm sure that was very, very helpful for
I hope so.
So Tara, coming to the closing of our session, do you have any final words or messages for our viewers who are watching us?
Yeah, I mean, for anyone that's not suffering from breast cancer, to any ladies out there that aren't, to just check yourselves for, not just for breast cancer, for anything. If you notice anything that is not normal, then get it checked out straight away. And for any ladies that may be going through it, just my main thing is listen to your body. Listen, so many people, as I said before, will tell you what you should and shouldn't do. Listen to your body. If it tells you have to stop, you have to stop. Listen to the specialist, because at the end of the day, this is what they do. And just try, as I said, for me, I just tried to be as normal as I could for as long as I could. And just don't be frightened to ask for help. That's really a main thing. Don't be scared. I know a lot of people do try and put a brave face on, but don't. If you're suffering, ask for help from anybody. Reach out to somebody. I'm sure you can give them my details. I'm happy to just chat to anybody, or just meet for a coffee or anything. But yeah, just reach out and speak to anybody, but just listen to your body, and if you notice any changes at all, just get yourself checked.
Thank
the
you
sooner
so much.
You notice anything, the better.
Yeah, absolutely. That's an important message, important reminder, and also an inspiring message and story from you. So thank you again for
Thank
being
you.
with us here today. It was a real pleasure speaking to you, and I really believe that our viewers today it had a lot of benefit from watching this
Hope
session
so.
and listening to you speak. Thank you.
Sorry,
And
my dog's just started barking. He's been
no,
so good.
no worries. I have one at home too. Fine. I just also want to thank everyone who sent in their questions today. Thank you, everyone, for staying with us through this session, submitting your questions, watching our webinar on breast health and breast cancer awareness, and particularly Tara's journey. We hope you gained some interesting insight from this session. Be sure to follow THP Global online to keep up with the latest health and wellness information. All the links will be in the description box below, and we will see you at the next Wellness Wednesday webinar. Thank you, Tara. Bye.
Thank you.